This video is to help you design a bookmark for the being cut on the laser cutter. So make sure if you're wanting to do the bookmark option that you have the bookmark template open that's 7 inches by 2 inches long. So the first thing we need is an outside shape. So the best shape I know for a bookmark to not have sharp edges on it is going to be a rounded rectangle. That's in this shape menu right here. And if you go to shapes, it's the second shape in. When I click on that, I get a crosshairs, and I want to hold the mouse button down and pull this all the way out. Now, if it slips, you can either hit delete and start over again, or you could drag it by one of the corners down here. Now you want to make sure of two things here. One, that you take up as much of the space as possible. Do not make this small right here, because then you'll end up with a tiny bookmark. That won't work. Secondly, you want to double check that no part of this went off the edge. You see, if I did something like this, this went too low. I need to make that so it's on the page, and make sure this is on the page. Great. So remember that we're going to have to cut the outside of this, and to communicate to the laser cutter that it's a cut, we need a red line around the outside. The way we adjust the color of that line is with the pencil tool. Now, if you don't see the pencil tool right there, that means that you don't have your shape selected. Remember, the computer's dumb. It doesn't know which one that object you want, even when there's one. So we want to select it and choose that pencil tool and choose that second color red on the second one in on the second row. You'll know it's the real red when you put your mouse over the top of it and it says red. You'll notice the other kind of red colors have other names to them. We just want red. That's the one the laser cutter knows. Lastly, for this part, you're going to want to get rid of the fill color. The fill color is adjusted by this paint bucket tool. You do not want a white or a light background. You want no background or transparent. So click on transparent. If you leave a background color, it will confuse the laser cutter. Okay, so now we have our outside shape. Now we need to think, who are we going to make this for? Are we going to make it for ourselves, or are we making this as a gift for somebody else? Okay, we need to get some writing on here. And a great thing for bookmarks are inspirational quotes. So I've got a few here. If I just typed in Harry Potter quotes, I went and found this one here. Dark times lie ahead of us, and there will be a time when we must choose between what is easy and what is right. I love that quote from Dumbledore. Or we can just type in like inspirational quotes and do a search on that. And I brought up a website here that has a bunch of good ones. I like this first one. Life is 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we react to it. So I think I'm going to put that on my example. So I'm going to go in here and double click to get the cursor. And I'm just going to start typing. Life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. Okay, and then I want to credit the person who said it. In this case, that is Dennis P. Kimbrough. So I will type that in, Dennis P. Kimbrough. Okay, now this looks okay, I guess, but it is boring. Okay, we never want to leave good designs unless you're just typing a paper. Arial is the most boring font there is. We want to highlight this stuff and choose a much cooler font. Now you've got some fonts in your list. Mine's bigger because I've added to it. I want you to know that if you don't like the fonts or aren't inspired by the fonts in this list, you can always click on more fonts, and there are literally thousands of fonts. And when you choose a new one you've never used before, it'll add it to your font list, and that'll show up in all your Google products, including Google Docs, etc. I've got a pretty good list to choose from, so I'm going to look at what I've got here, and I'm going to choose, I don't know, let's see what Luckiest Guy. That looks a little silly for something that this is a little more serious. How about this one? Ooh, I like that. But there's still a lot of empty space here. So I'm going to want to increase this font size. I'm going to try 30 for this. You'll have to, whoa, that's too big. Maybe 25. That looks pretty good. We want to make sure that there isn't like one word left on a line. Like if it was like this, I might readjust it so it looks a little better. Okay, so that's looking pretty good, and that's nice and black, but we do have some empty space down here, and we need to add in a shape. Now, you can't import pictures and have that work on there. You are limited in this particular assignment to choosing a shape from here. I feel like this is kind of a sunny way of looking at it, so I'm going to put a sun in and pull that out here. I need to make sure that I get rid of the fill color. And I've got a choice. I could either leave this as black and have that engraved or just marked, or I could color it red and have it cut it out. I'm going to choose to have that as cut out. Now, there are some shapes that are problematic if you cut them when they have an inside and an outside shape. So for instance, something like a happy face, if you imagine if you cut a happy face out, it'll cut this hole and then all the face parts will fall away. So if you want something like that, that's going to need to stay black. Another example of that one is like this shape right here. It's got inside and outside lines. So if we wanted to use that, again, it would need to be black because everything inside the outer rectangle would just fall away when we cut it. Okay. So on this, I'm going to just keep one to keep it tasteful. If you really want to add a second one, you can. Don't do more than 2. You can decorate it any way you want. Okay, so before we turn this in, we want to double check everything is spelled correctly, and it looks like it is. The layout is nice. It takes up most of this, and there's no part of any of the lines that are sticking out over the edge. And we have an image in there. Okay, so at that point, you could turn it in. So I hope that helps.